Hello everyone and welcome to my Session 6 Teaching Memo and Session 7 Introduction. I hope you all got to enjoy the supermoon last night. It was supposed to be also a supermoon tonight, but it was very cloudy. Dr. Laura and I took an early evening walk last night and marveled as it rose. It did not shine well on my Patriots though, as Tom Brady threw his first interception and lost his first game of the year. And I stayed up till midnight to watch it. It all ended on the 1 yard line or 2 yard line. In session 6, there was no formal interaction this week, therefore I cannot comment on any misconceptions or great posts this week. You should be filling out your vocabulary in your own words. We're seeing a lot of vocabulary words in my presentations and in the readings. So you should be doing that so you're not stuck at the end scrambling to try to find these definitions. There were many vocab words in the last two presentations. Remember, it's not due until the last session, at which time you will upload it as a Word document. So please remember that. Don't email me and say, where is it supposed to be uploaded? It's the last session. Validity is an important topic in test construction, as you can see from Popham's chapter 4. Cohen Spencer's chapter 5 in my presentation. Remember, if your test has validity, and I'm talking about content-related validity, then you needn't be concerned about reliability. This doesn't mean you shouldn't pay attention to the mistakes that can cause a test to be unreliable, such as poorly worded questions, formatting issues, not enough time to take the test, etc., etc. If your test correctly aligns with your learning targets, and there are enough questions for each that allows you to make valid inferences about what your students have mastered, then you have a good handle on content-related validity. The other type of validity that you may encounter is predictive, whether a test can accurately foretell how a student will do in the future. I'm sure many of you had bad feelings about the SATs or the ACTs, which were made worse when you discovered that they only accounted for about 25% of a person's success and only in the first year of college. You are more likely to encounter this type of validity when using kindergarten assessments, screening assessments for kindergarten or first grade. And many of those things are available, especially with the implementation of response to intervention. Universal screening is one of the components of RTI. Also remember that session 7 that this week's reading and presentation topic are on absence of bias. There's going to be a quiz on it. I'm not sure if it's this session or next session, but there will be a true-false quiz on it, I believe. And those are tricky. They were written by Popham, who is a testing guru. And one of them, I think it's this quiz, but there may be one in this true-false, no, I think it's the next true-false test, which is also written by him, where one of them is really tricky, one of the questions, and that's not the purpose of making tests, is to trick people. So I'll talk about that when we get to it. But this true-false test is pretty straightforward, but again, it's still going to be difficult. Make sure that when you take the true-false test, you download the hard copy and take it first. And ones you aren't sure about, get on the test discussion board and talk about them. Don't give answers, but talk about them. And that's the way you can use the quiz discussion board for a true-false test. Because naturally, you're only going to get one chance to take this test. But when we talk about bias, many people throw this term around, like this test is biased against poor kids, this test is biased against inner city kids, this test is biased against rural kids. And really, there are only two ways that tests can be biased, and you'll discover that this week. And you also discover how, as a classroom teacher, you can ensure that your tests are not biased. So. This week, you're also going to finish the first draft of your selected response test. One of you in one of my sections, Lily, and I'll give you a shout out, Lily, because you are now a pioneer. You have posted the first selected response test, and I have given you feedback on that test. It's not due for till the end of this session, and the discussion board where you're posting it doesn't close until session 8. So you have plenty of time. And I hope I don't embarrass you, Lily, but Lily thought it was due last night, and so she was panicking, and it's not due till next Sunday night. Please use the resources in session 6 and 7, and there's a lot of good stuff there, and I'm going to go there because I want to talk about them as I'm showing them to you in session 6, which closes November 13th. Course materials, handouts, and there's vocabulary in your own words. I thought I must be adding that every session. There's the hard copy for quiz. This is this selected response test rubric, and I want to focus your attention on question type. There is an equal mix of reasoning and knowledge questions, at least 60-40. 40% would be 8 questions in a 20-question quiz, or 10 questions in a 25-question quiz. So I'm not looking for a lot of them, and that's just for an advanced distinguished. There's only 4 levels. The proficient level, the test contains at least 4 to 6 reasoning questions. So if you can create 4 reasoning questions, I would be a happy man. So keep that in mind. Here's the EdTPA, Special Ed Handbook, EdTPA Making Good Choices, Chapter 4 and 5 in Chapui et al. These are 2 chapters that you should read about creating selected response tests. Chapter 5 in particular gives you the specifics of each type of question. You know, what you need to do for a multiple choice question, what you need to know and do for a fill in the blank question, a matching question, and a true-false question. And many of you will not read it, and I will know that because you will make fill in the blanks questions with different length blanks where the blank is at the beginning of the sentence instead at the end. So I will know. And so is this a trick question is also a good resource for creating your test. I have some exemplar tests here, as always. Resources for creating learning targets. Here is an article, How to Write Learning Objectives, Tips for Writing Behavioral Objectives, and Verbs for Behavioral Objectives. And another article about how to write behavioral objectives. I believe that's the same as the one that's here. And here's another handout with verbs for behavioral objectives. And here these are, and this Brookhart is going to give you some suggestions for making questions that are reasoning questions, multiple choice questions. So all good stuff. Make sure you look at those. And mostly, I believe, in this week's presentation, it should be my. Let me go to this week's presentation. It should be my test creation video. There's my video on validity, and here's my video on creating the select response test. I would advise everyone to watch that before you start creating the test or before you post your first draft, because you're going to have a lot of formatting issues that you can clear up if you watch this video. Also, it gives you some suggestions for making reasoning questions. So, all good stuff, but I can only lead the horse to water. So here are the steps you need to take in the test creation process. Become familiar with the EdTPA. Create 4 to 5 learning targets that are specific and measurable. Write 20 to 25 questions that align with the learning targets. And I would suggest that you code them LT1, learning target 1, so I can see what questions they are aligned with or what targets they are aligned with. And remember, there's only 4 types of selected response questions: fill in the blanks, multiple choice, true, false, and matching. There are no extended response questions. And if you have more than one blank in a sentence, you better make that 3 separate questions. So what are the 3 characteristics for blah blah blah? Question 12 blank, question 13 blank, question 14 blank. So there should be only 1 blank per fill in the blank question, unless you make them 3 separate numbers. So what you're going to do is download and take the exams of your group mates. So you can cut and paste it in the text box, but you must attach it as a Word document so we can all download it and take it. You won't upload the answers. You're not going to correct it until next session's discussion board. I think I have opened that, so that's already there to do. So you can do that if you want. But don't upload it in this discussion board. This is just for posting your first draft of your test and giving feedback. I mean, not giving feedback. You give feedback on your next one. In my test creation video, I mentioned what I thought were big ideas, but I've changed my opinion. I think I may have done a little editing too. After being trained in the nuances of the EdTPA, the major concepts are not how many videos you need or how long they should be, how many pages your lesson plan should be. So those things, you will know those. What you want to do is try to get your classmates to distinguish about the nuances in the rubrics between a 2 and a 3, between a 3 and a 4, between a 4 and a 5. Well, I wouldn't worry about 4 and a 5, but I would focus on between 2 and 3 and between 3 and 4. That's the important things that I think you should take away from this exercise. I'm doing it for 2 reasons: that you'll become familiar with the EdTPA, and that you'll learn to create knowledge and reasoning questions that are aligned with learning targets. Those are my goals. And you remember that selected response tests are a good match for assessing knowledge and reasoning target. Yet most teachers and my students in this course only use them for knowledge mastery. That is why one part of the rubric question type requires a mixture, as I already mentioned, a mixture of reasoning and knowledge questions. To help you in this area, go to Chapuis et al., page 139. They give you 4 or 5 examples of reasoning questions, and making the most out of multiple choice, which I just mentioned, is in course materials. So along with your group mates, I will also be giving you extensive feedback on your first draft. You will use these comments to improve your test, which you will again upload in a future discussion board to a different group. I'm going to mix the groups up. Your discussion groups will stay the same. This testing group will change. So keep notes. Also, keep notes on the process, because you will need to reflect on this process in your 3-part analytic summary, which is going to be due at the end of the course. So you're going to reflect on this whole process. What did my first draft look like? What did I change? What did I learn from that? And then in each section, you're going to have to cite references. You're going to have to cite Chapuis et al. You're going to have to cite making the most out of multiple choice. You have to cite, is this a trick question? So you should be doing that as this process, as you start this process. As I mentioned before, you also have a true-false test this question, and you know the drill. Download the hard copy, take it first, go into this quiz discussion board before you take it online, and that is all I have for this week. Good luck to all of you. I look forward to looking at your tests, and I'll talk to you all again next week.